Let's explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia, and welcome to Badlands Daily. Ghost will be joining me very shortly. He had some technical difficulties, had to get his computer getting a little, gotta get booted up or something like that. I don't know. But we will be here for the show. Got a good show lined up. Lots going on. Got a little confirmation to something not confirmation, a little more evidence supporting a theory that I had yesterday. So we'll get into that for sure. In the meantime, let's go ahead and jump into our sponsors for today's show. And first up, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about our friends over at Rise Attire.
What up, Badlanders? Are you ready to rock something new in 2026? Well, as always, we got you covered with the Rise Badlands Native Collection. Built from the rich tones and rugged terrain of the Dakotas, equal parts beautiful and brutal. Old roots, new vibe. Whether you got gators in your backyard or you have to take a bush plane to the post office, Badlanders are worldwide. Different dirt, same tribe. By the way, your friends at Rise have a deal for you. Show up at GART rocking your native gear. Swing by our booth and get in to win a free Badlands Rise hoodie of your choice. And don't forget, every order throws fuel on the fire of the Made in USA parallel economy. So grab something now at badlandsmedia.tv/rise.
All right, badlandsmedia.tv/rise. I feel like I got a little hat tip in there with whether you've got gators in your backyard or you have to take a bush plane to the post office. So going from us down here in Florida all the way to Brad and Abby in Alaska. And gotta love that. Gordon, welcome, brother. How you doing? Jeez, Louise, you look all baby face again. What are you doing?
Dude, it was a beard of peace. And we're no longer at peace, so I had to get rid of it. You've heard of the board of peace. That was the beard of peace, and the beard of peace had to be retired. So
oh man, if only. Should I shave my face? Should I shave, guys?
yeah. The real beard of peace, right?
This is the beard of peace. It's been this many years since I've been to war. Yeah. If I have to get in there and kick some ass, then maybe I'll consider shaving it. Oh my goodness. There's our next Badlands soft disclosure beard oil ad right there. The beard of peace.
Yep.
Speaking of which, let's go ahead and play our soft disclosure ad, which is one of the most epic so far. I still think Alpha's Asian one, I still think that's my favorite, but this one's up there.
Legend says, on St. Patrick's Day, a beard without oil is just a chin with ambition. But a beard with soft disclosure beard oil, that's true treasure. Spiced vanilla, naked, smooth as a leprechaun's getaway plan. Soft enough to impress your barber, bold enough to confuse a baby goat. And this boar bristle brush tames your beard like it holds the crown coin. Every bottle's American made, which means when you buy Soft Disclosure, you're supporting 6 American small businesses. That's not luck. That's capitalism with cheekbones. And while you're at it, try our mint green deodorant, because even legends need fresh pits. Soft Disclosure. Go for gold. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code TINYBRIGHT for 15% off.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts.
That's epic. Oh, softdisclosure.com.
Fortunately, I favor my Scottish side, so because otherwise, I think John would turn me into a leprechaun as well. Because I'm 50% Irish, 50% Scottish. So, but I take after my Scottish side in terms of I guess how I look. So that's funny. That's A+ ad.
Man, one person, one vote, says Brian. You get winded just running up and down your stairs, and you think you can re-enlist? Yeah, absolutely. I don't get winded. You can hear my increased heart rate as I'm running downstairs and then back upstairs to try and get here on time, with the stress of making sure that I'm here so I don't get shit from all of you guys for being. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I could do it. Absolutely. I mean, obviously, you got to train a little bit and get back into that tip-top shape, but yeah, I could do it. All right. Got a lot to talk about today. Of course, we will. I mean, look, guys, the bottom line is that this military operation, foreplay for war, whatever you want to call it, that's Alpha's term right there, is dominating the news headlines. So there is some other news to get to, and we will cover that. And we're going to start out with that. Before we do that, smash that thumbs up if you have not done so already. And we got a very interesting, good, favorable ruling from the Supreme Court here. Supreme Court blocks California restrictions on schools notifying parents about students' transgender status. The Supreme Court barred California from enforcing state rules that restrict when schools can notify parents about who comes out as transgender and requires teachers to use child's preferred pronouns. The court, in a 6-3 vote on ideological lines, allowed a federal judge's ruling in favor of parents who oppose the policy on religious grounds to go into effect. Now, it did also add a 14th Amendment stipulation saying the court's ruling focused on the parents' claims that their rights under the free exercise of the First Amendment were violated. It also said that they have valid parental rights claims under the 14th Amendment. Quote, the parents who assert a free exercise claim have sincere religious beliefs about sex and gender, and they feel a religious obligation to raise their children in accordance with those beliefs. The court added. Now, I want to pause right there for a second, Gordon, because, you know, I don't know. I don't know exactly where you stand on this, but I believe that the 14th Amendment was passed unconstitutionally. I don't believe that it's a legitimate amendment to the Constitution. You know, me and Ash and Chris talk about this all the time. And so let's take that out of our mind for just a second here. And if you take the 14th Amendment arguments out of the equation, the court is basically saying that you have to have sincere religious beliefs about sex and gender to assert parental rights over your child's sex and gender. You know, the mutilation or, you know, the indoctrination of your kid to believe that they're transgender or whatever the case might be. And that was kind of shocking to me.
Yeah, I mean, all of this is shocking to me. I mean, nothing about this, I think, is the whole debate, I think, is very dark and twisted. I mean, God bless those who are fighting for the right side of it, but yeah, I mean, I can't imagine the rest of the world must just be laughing at us as they watch this unfold, because this isn't even like a debate in most corners of the world. The places that we consider very archaic and primitive aren't even having to deal with this kind of nonsense.
Right. Pink Floyd got it right, man. Teachers, leave those kids alone. The thing that's concerning to me, though, Gordon, is that, you know, just going on a constitutional basis here, are they saying that the only argument within the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, the original OG 10 amendments, are they saying that parents would not have the rights if it weren't for the unconstitutional 14th Amendment? Are they saying that teachers can go in there and literally dictate to children what their gender is and go in and you know, kind of allow that to fester in their minds and ignore telling the parents? Like that's concerning to me.
Yeah, I mean, it really does have like a like running it down in my own head, just running it through to its core root, it has like a might makes right power projection thing where it's like, okay, so the government, which is what the teachers represent in this dynamic, has the right to exert itself on the minds of your child because the government is powerful enough to do so, and you really have no means to stop them. I mean, you physically can't stop them, right? If you tried to, you would be arrested and put in prison. Lawfare, you can try that, but that is taxing enough. So yeah, I mean, it calls into question the legitimacy of everything. I mean, the legitimacy of the Department of Education, the school system, the government itself. I find myself wrestling with this in almost every facet of our government at this point.
Yeah, again, that's a really concerning decision for me, especially considering some of the laws that we have, that protects children from sexual exploitation, sexual assault, defines the age of which they're able to consent to that type of thing. It stops them from being able to consume alcohol, to vote, and all these other things. And the Supreme Court had to rely on the parents' religious beliefs in order to justify this outside of the 14th Amendment. So let's get into that. It says, quote, the rights protected by these precedents includes the right not to be shut out of participation in decisions regarding their children's mental health, the court said. Now, that's the 14th Amendment argument right there. And again, one of the few times where I will, applaud the 14th Amendment or the application of it in this case. Sotomayor, Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson dissented. Kagan referred back to the Supreme Court's ruling last year that upheld states' bans on gender transition treatments for transgender kids. In that case, she noted the courts chose not to take up a separate parental rights question brought by parents who want their children to receive gender-affirming care. Now, again, this is going to be an opinion, not an opinion, but an assertion here that's a little bit contradictory to what the chat's probably going to want to hear. But Kagan actually has a point there. When you look at the law, just as the courts are ruling on this, you have to take out your personal opinion, you have to take out moral, all of that stuff, and just going based on the law. On one hand, SCOTUS is saying, hey, the parents have this right under the 14th Amendment to know what their kids are doing. But on the other hand, they're saying in Tennessee, in that case there, that the parents don't have a right to, do something like this to the kids. Now, of course, we know that this is, it's a HIPAA violation, like do no harm, the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm, removing appendages that are perfectly fine and meant to be there, placed there by God. But I can get Kagan's argument. I don't agree with it whatsoever, but strictly on the legal argument she makes, I can understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like we are so far down like a hole where we just have decades and decades and decades of bad law and bad precedent and bad ideas that are like informing our public discourse and our public law. And it's almost at a point where you can't even go back and look at old case law because all of it's so perverted from what I think the original intent was. And ultimately what God's law is, because I think that the founders were about as close in alignment with God's law as you can be in creating a codifying a system of laws. And we've deviated so far up beyond, like off of that, that we are engaging in just this totally immoral, awful, like stuff like this. Which again, like, I think it makes it really hard for us to go around the world and point fingers at other cultures and be like, you're evil, you're bad, when we are like cutting off our kids' penises and saying that doing so makes them a woman.
Yeah.
Like that just makes us look like we are the insane asylum escapees, like in straitjackets, screaming at other cultures that they are insane. And it's like, okay, well,
that's part of the virus that's infecting, the leftist virus that's infecting minds. That, you go back and think about the concept. Like, imagine having to tell Thomas Jefferson or John Adams or, James Madison, like, hey guys, we're considering mutilating genitals, allowing teachers to promote the mutilation of children's genitals without telling their parents. Like, what do you think Thomas Jefferson would have? He would have just immediately pulled out his revolver and shot you in the head.
Probably. Yeah.
I'm not even kidding. He would have immediately pulled out his revolver and shot you in the head. Maybe Aaron Burr. Aaron Burr would have done that.
Aaron Burr. Yeah. Well, I mean, there were, yeah, I mean, generations of the past did deal with things a little differently than we do. And some people would call that less civilized. Some people would call that, um, whatever, whatever your opinion of it was. But, the general society was a more moral society, I would say, generally speaking, not always, but there certainly were their own peculiarities to it. Excuse me. Slavery, of course, being one of them, but slavery was only practiced by a very, very small minority of the population.
Yeah, Chrea says that's not HIPAA, it's the Hippocratic Oath. I know, I realized that. I corrected myself. Also, I got corrected again. Where did it go? Where did it go? Somebody said Thomas Jefferson pulling out a pistol. Wahlberg forged. Thomas Jefferson with a revolver? I meant pistol. You got what I'm saying. All right. Flintlock. All right. You got what I'm saying.
Good call. Good call.
Also, if we're going back in time, I brought him a revolver so he could make sure that he didn't have to reload. Like, very slow, painful death. Oh, maybe, yeah. I'll let you use your imagination where that statement could go. All right, let's jump into our next story here.
It's hard to believe that we're still talking about this stuff. I just want to
it really is.
It's like hard to believe that we're still in 2026, like having this conversation and debating this. But I think that just goes to show how deeply embedded Satan is into our society. And until we confront that reality, which we as a society fail to do, we like refuse to look in the mirror and say, maybe we're the problem. Like maybe we, like our society is the problem. Until we do that, we're going to continue to have these conversations, and they're probably going to continue to move the Overton window in a direction we don't want it to go in.
Well, again, I think we're in a fourth turning right now. We're coming out of the crisis and into the high. And as you come into the high, you have to cast off all the disparities that brought about the crisis, and that's one of them. The leftist ideology, the woke mind virus, is part of that, and we're seeing that slowly get dismantled. By the way, now that this Iran war kicked off, it's completely and totally disappeared is all these lunatic ICE protesters. They're just gone. Like that story just gone. No more ICE.
Their funding got reallocated.
Yeah, exactly. All their deep state funding is now going to, I don't know, some regime change that's going to take place over there.
I think it got sent to their counterparts in the Middle East, who now have to do their part to do, whatever, protests, riots, whatever it is.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into this story real quick from the Gateway Pundit. Retired Air Force general who led U.S. military research lab that develops directed energy technology goes missing in Mexico. Not much to say here other than retired Major General William Neal McCaskill, who previously commanded the Phillips Research Site at Kirtland Air Force Base in New Mexico, has been reported missing after being last seen on Friday. The Phillips Research Site at Kirtland Air Force Base is notable for its research into advanced space and directed energy weapons technology. And this is the second kind of bizarre happening with people involved in that sphere. McCaskill holds a master's of science in aeronautical engineering from MIT and a doctor of philosophy and astronautical engineering. He joined the Air Force in 1979 and served for 34 years. His disappearance comes just weeks after Caltech astrophysicist Carl Grillmar was shot dead at his remote home in California. So two guys that are kind of a little bit adjacent in the whole, space laser astrophysics realm tend to go missing. Now, both of these guys, Grillmar, I don't know, but McCaskill was obviously retired at this point. I don't know. They say there's medical issues that he has, which is why they're putting out these bolos like that and the silver alerts, which obviously, I mean, you would anyways. But yeah, not looking good for that situation there. I don't know if there's anything more to that, in terms of something that's deliberately being done to people that have that type of knowledge, if whatever. Do you have any comment on that? I mean,
it's concerning for sure. It's one of those things. Just need more information.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad. I'm glad they're putting the alerts out and they're bringing attention to it. But are these guys missing? Are they in hiding? Are they, are they just off in the woods, like, you know what, I'm done with all this. I just want to go live in the woods. You know, I mean, who knows, right?
Well, Grillmare is dead, allegedly.
Yeah.
The Caltech guy, but Casklin is just disappeared. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into this. President Trump, the White House Correspondents Association, has asked me very nicely to be the honoree at this year's dinner, a long and storied tradition since it began in 1924 under then President Calvin Coolidge, in honor of the nation's 250th birthday and the fact that these correspondents now admit that I'm truly one of the greatest presidents in the history of our country, the GOAT. Some may say the GOAT. According to many, it will be my honor to accept their invitation. And according to many calling him the GOAT, it will be my honor to accept their invitation and work to make it the greatest, hottest, and most spectacular dinner of any kind ever, because the press was extraordinarily bad to me, fake news all. Right from the beginning of my first term, I boycotted the event and never went as honoree. However, I look forward to being with everyone this year. Hopefully, it will be something very special. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. First time. So the correspondence dinner is pretty interesting. Don't they usually roast the president at that dinner?
I'm not too familiar with the dinner, so I'm not sure, but could be.
I don't think I've ever paid much attention to that kind of shit, but I'm pretty sure that they take shots at him.
Yeah, the only dinner in DC that has ever interested me was the red dinner. Yeah, the red dinner. That one will live in infamy. But other than that, I really don't care about, black tie dinners in DC.
That was the best one ever. The one where he went after Hillary and in 2016. That was that one. There'll never be another moment like that, just because of the stakes and the zeitgeist and how out of norm that was. That, like, if somebody did it now, it would be like, okay, like now it's way more like normal because Trump normalized it. But back then it was like unthought of to do something like that in politics. Agreed. Speaking of Hillary Clinton, we got some video of we got the whole video. I haven't watched it. It's over 4.5 hours long, of Hillary and Bill Clinton's testimony, their deposition. A couple notable things I want to play here. We'll start out with this one. So they asked him about the notorious hot tub photo, right? And this was Mr. Clinton, President Clinton's response.
What we're trying to get at is some context for the public on whether you remember this photo and any details you may be able to provide us about it. So do you recall the details of this photo, or recall the photo being taken?
No, I don't think I ever knew the photo was taken.
Okay, and for those who can't see it, it's a photo of you in a hot tub. There's a person next to you here. Do you remember where it was taken? Where was it taken?
I'm almost sure that this taken, I think there's an adjacent photograph, which you probably have. And that if people saw it, they would feel that someone was trying to con them showing this picture. But anyway, this picture was taken.
Did he just say someone was trying to con him?
Backing that up, I didn't hear that.
Where it was taken? Where was it taken?
I'm almost sure that this taken, I think there's an adjacent photograph, which you probably have. And that if people saw it, they would feel that someone was trying to con them showing.
Yeah. You have an adjacent photo that if somebody were to see it, they would feel that somebody was trying to con them. Blackmail, I think, is what he meant to say, not con necessarily, although con applies too.
Con them or con Bill Clinton?
Person in the photo. So he's referring to these photos. So this is one of the photos.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's the other photo. And so I'm assuming that it's this one that he's talking about. But he's saying that somebody would be trying to con him if they had that photo. And that was the implication when that photo came out is, oh, look, Bill Clinton's in the hot tub with a woman who's got a redacted, face. We have no idea. That woman could be a grandmother for all we know.
Yeah. Could be a man for all we know. Right?
Could be a man, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's when all this, hoopla started, but let's keep going here.
This picture. But anyway, this picture was taken in Brunei. And we flew one night on a trip to Asia, the last very long leg.
You said we. Is it who is that including?
Well, my TEL team that was working
Thank you.
on the AIDS issue, and Mr. Epstein was there, and Miss Maxwell. But anyway, we got to the end of the flight was Brunei. It's a tiny place, but a very wealthy one. And the Sultan of Brunei was a man that I had gotten to know well in my 8 years as president. And his first involvement with international matters was basically to join the Asian Pacific Economic Leaders Conference, which I started and which he attended. And then he was very proud of that. And he hosted, his time came to host it. You do these things in a rotation. And it came either at the very end of my term or maybe the next year. Anyway, he wanted, when he knew I was coming, and he said he wanted to help me with my AIDS initiative, and he invited me to stay there. And he said, I want you to stay at this hotel, and I hope you'll use the pool. So
does that not sound weird as fuck to you?
Yeah, it does.
Sultan of Brunei invites him over, says, I want you to stay at this hotel, and I hope you'll use the pool. I mean, that just sounds weird. So for those that don't know, the Sultan of Brunei is like one of the richest people in the world. For a while, he was the richest person.
Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I'm looking it up now. And just to give...
Wasn't that kind of like the joke of who's the guy, Adi, whatever it is, that used to do like the rich... What's his name? The comedian?
Which one?
The one that used to do like the jokes where he was like a sheik or a sultan, and used to I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I'm not sure which comedian you're talking about. But share my screen just to give everyone an idea of what we're talking about. So here's more of a chart, like a graphic to show you. Here's Brunei, and then the gray is Malaysia. So Brunei is like the yellow, the two yellow parts. So then just to give you a sense of, and this is a really like this whole area is very hard to figure out in terms of like boundary lines. So Malaysia is this peninsula minus Singapore, which is the very tip. And then this northern part of this large island, the rest of the island is Indonesia. And then Indonesia is this very large island over here as well. And this island chain, I guess. So Brunei, if you zoom in, is like this small little area within Malaysia, within this big island. So anyway, just giving everyone some context.
All right. So it's Ali G, Sacha Baron Cohen.
Oh yeah, Sacha Baron Cohen. Yeah,
it was not imitating the Sultan of Brunei, so I'm wrong on that. But he was for a while the richest person in the world. But anyways, we can pretty much end that right there. So Clinton was staying on a floor with a few suites, and they all had a common indoor pool that they shared, and it was just a few of them. And they were in that pool. Maxwell was in there. Epstein was in there. Clinton was in there. Don't say anything about the girl. Clinton says he doesn't remember who the girl was, the woman or girl. We don't know. Says that she was not underage, but she was part of their team, I guess. And again, I don't think there was anything like any there to that. But the idea that the Sultan of Brunei is putting you up, and we go back to Hunter Biden and what when Hunter Biden went over to China. And, they would they'd put them up in a room and then send girls to them. And, is that a blackmail opportunity? And Clinton even said that picture would look like somebody's trying to con him. Right. Mm-hmm. And then what happens? He's sitting here telling us that he got put up in a hotel. That's a key, man. If you're in a position like that, like this is like SOPs for anybody that's in a world like that. You don't go to a room that somebody predetermines for you. Because that room could very well be bugged. Like, and when you're in that level, that sphere of influence, that's just common sense, right? So I don't know. It's just kind of strange to me how that went.
Yeah, it's like, and you'd think a security team would have been like all over that, but I mean,
maybe
at that point they were just used to dealing with this kind of stuff. They're like, yeah, I mean, it's Bill. Bill's gonna go do what he wants, right?
It's true. That is true. There's another clip here that I thought was quite interesting. Play about a minute or so of this. Oh, and they're talking about, this is when Bill Clinton pretty much exonerates President Trump. and says that, that he had the falling out with Epstein over a land deal. And to preface this, Joe Torre, the former manager of the Yankees, was hosting a golf tournament called Save the Home or something, and it was for domestic violence within the home, saying that Torre himself was a victim of domestic violence, and that Donald Trump donated the golf course to Torre in New York to use for the tournament, for the fundraiser. And Trump, I guess, came out and played a few holes with Bill Clinton, President Clinton, whatever, President Trump, President, whatever.
And so I wanted to support it. And so Donald Trump gave him the golf course in New York to have a tournament on, and I played in it a couple of times. And the day I was there, he would typically, Donald Trump would come out and play a few holes with us. And he somehow knew I had flown in Jeffrey Epstein's aircraft, and he said, we had some great times together over the years, but we fell out, all because of a real estate deal. And he said, I'm sorry it happened. That's all.
Do you recall whether President Trump was the first one to affirmatively bring up the subject of Jeffrey Epstein?
No, but I'd be shocked if I did. I just don't do that.
Okay, so a couple things that were interesting there to me, and I'm sorry, I'm going down a rabbit hole that I've engaged it with myself, and that is the concept of President Trump being an informant against Jeffrey Epstein. And so Trump donates his golf course to Torre for this event, knowing that President Clinton's there, comes out and plays a few holes with President Clinton. And then Clinton's own words, somehow Trump knew that I was on the Lolita Express on Epstein's airplane. And then Trump, according to Clinton, most likely brings up Epstein, saying we had a great time together. Like almost like he's baiting Clinton to say something. I don't want to go as far as saying he's wearing a wire or anything like that, but trying to feel this out. Like, is Clinton involved in Epstein in that form or fashion? Can I get him to think that, build some rapport and soften him up to think that I was involved in that somehow? And then it, the conversation devolves into President Trump kicked him out. Well, I don't know if this is before or after. This was like 2003 timeframe. I just thought it was interesting. Somehow Trump knew that I was on Epstein's airplane. Like, how would you know that in 2003? So yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was a little interesting.
So that was 2003.
That happened. Yeah.
That's really interesting. And I mean, the idea of Trump wearing a wire, this would have been 2003. That would have been, I think, the year before The Apprentice launched. I believe The Apprentice started in 2004, which is kind of what catapulted Trump into like the higher, celebrity TV show, like that tier of celebrity, right? It wouldn't have been like unprecedented for him to be wearing a wire. I mean, he was, I think, an FBI informant at that point. He certainly worked with the FBI on the casino he built in Atlantic City. He asked the FBI to staff it after they built it. That he asked them to help him design it to maximize the, their operations, because he wanted them to be in there gathering intel, obviously, on the mafia. And then he asked the agents to work there undercover. So, I mean, it wouldn't have been beyond Trump, I think, to wear a wire in that situation.
I mean, yeah, again, I don't know if he was wearing
speculation, pure speculation.
Yeah.
I'm just speculating, but I'm just connecting some dots. I mean, I'm just saying it's not like this is like a totally out of the blue, like speculation. There's no precedent for you to base that speculation on.
But it's just interesting. Like, these are things, I mean, this is 23 years ago, right? This is 23 years ago. I can't tell you 23 years ago, I can't tell you about conversations I had 23 years ago. I would not be able to tell you about that. And you got to think of that from the perspective of Bill Clinton. He was a former president in that time frame. He's had a lot of dealings with world leaders, with, oligarchs and aristocrats and all sorts of elites. And he remembers a conversation from 23 years ago at his age. That's really strange. Really strange.
He's also fried his brain a little bit. I mean, he looks a little fried out.
He's got Parkinson's, bro. There's moments in there where he's lifting up his coffee cup and he's just shaking all over the place. I mean, he could be nervous.
Yeah.
But I do have a couple clips of Hillary. Someone in the chat said, play the clip of her talking about frazzle drip. And I did not even know that this happened. So I did a quick Control F on the deposition, and we're shooting from the hip on this.
It's not playing.
What the heck? Oh, I might not have the right tab up. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. I don't think you have the right tab up.
Could you hear the audio?
No, I couldn't hear anything.
But a lot of interesting questions today, but Pizzagate was not on my list.
Let's go back. I didn't even hear that.
The evidence that you would like us to review, or the exhibits that reflect that.
I can get some exhibits and pause this question.
When you provide those.
I will get those, and I will skip that question until we can.
Generally, if she's aware.
Generally, she is asking if she's aware of specific information that is in the files that you all are relying on. Please provide the witness with copies of that material.
Doesn't know or has no recollection, she's welcome to state so.
We're also welcome to actually see the information that you're speaking to.
Again, the representative is asking general.
I mean, I expected a lot of interesting questions today, but Pizzagate was not on my list.
It's okay. We're asking all sorts of things here.
You certainly are. You certainly are.
We're just trying to get the truth out to the American people.
Well, that
and
would
get
be
some clarity.
very helpful.
Are you aware of any files that were on Anthony Weiner's laptop in a folder that was titled insurance, life insurance, with a zip file titled frazzle?
The chairman's ruling. Is this within the scope? Is this within the scope, Mr. Chairman?
The chairman rules that it's not within the scope.
Mr. Chairman, based on what you said in the public hearing, is this within the scope?
We can go off the record for a moment.
Mr. Chairman, is this within the scope?
We'll go off the record
and can talk.
So what happens?
I have no links.
Back on the record.
Madam Clinton, you have stated that you do not recall meeting Jeffrey Epstein and have no links to him.
Oh, man, they didn't allow it to happen.
That's interesting. I mean, that is really interesting because you would think if, like, let's just assume for the sake of like this discussion that the whole frazzle drip thing was fake. Like the whole thing was just a psyop that was spun up by whoever. Doesn't even matter who spun it up, but somebody spun it up. If you're Hillary and her lawyers, wouldn't you be kind of eager to like address it? Like, wouldn't you be kind of eager to be like on the record, like in front of the American people, be like, that's a bunch of bullshit on the record, like hand to God, that's a bunch of bullshit. Like, yeah, ask me whatever you want about it. Like, I'd be happy to address those rumors, right? I mean, their reaction to that was that there's a there. I mean, that's more than smoke right there. I mean, that's like you are really rehashing something that was basically dead as far as like public discussion. I mean, there's public interest, sure, but it's not like we're talking about frazzle drip in any sort of like active way. Not the way we're talking about Pizzagate or, you know, the Epstein files.
Well, mainly the Epstein files, although Pizzagate's rehashed itself. But I've said this, and a lot of us at Badlands have said this a couple times. I'd be more interested in Weiner's laptop, Podesta's laptop, and you know, those files rather than what we've gotten so far from the Epstein files. Go ahead.
Adrian from Rise Tired texted me. He's listening. He said, look at her body language during the frazzle drip question. She puts on the mask and smiles. It's a reflexive tell. Yeah, I mean, her smile there is very strange. Like the whole thing is just very, very the reaction. It's the reaction to the question where the lawyers are like pounding the table, like this is so far out of line. And it's like, okay, like maybe in like the context of like the legal argument, you can get this removed. But in the public, the court of public opinion, everyone's looking at you like, well, that seems like some sort of like admission of guilt to some extent, right? Admission that what they're asking is real and not totally fabricated.
Man, I wish I could. Who was it that said to look that up? Because I want to give you credit because that was excellent. That was excellent.
Yeah, that was a good call.
Man, I'm sorry. I did not see the name. I just saw the comment. Sorry. I apologize to whoever brought that up, but thank you. That was great. And as to the body language, I mean, Bill Clinton was the same way. I mean, there were a lot of times when he looked nervous, and you could tell when he was going to get kind of friendly questions. You could tell he would sit up in his chair a little bit more. So Ash, and of course we know
it's kind of shocking the Clintons wouldn't be more prepared for like that situation. Like you would think they'd be a little more, number one, like, I mean, given their life and the life experience they both have lived, you'd think they'd be a little like they have some like ice in their veins, like they'd be able to just handle those kind of situations. We've seen Hillary in like Senate meetings, like, Senate hearings where she's being grilled and she just sat there and like took it, and like she didn't, she wasn't reacting emotionally or responding. And then you think the lawyers would be reminding them, like training them up, preparing for this, being like, hey, when they ask this question, don't react, like don't react. Right. Like let us react for you. Like do not respond, because then the people asking the questions are going to cue in on that, and they're going to go harder and they're going to ask follow-ups,
Yeah. There were a lot of, questions like that have kind of gone public now, are in the public domain, asking about Epstein's death, where Bill Clinton says it was mysterious and he doesn't, he believes he says he knows what's in the reports, but it still doesn't, make much sense to him. Hillary says the other thing, he mysteriously died. We've often speculated, especially Ash and I have speculated back and forth that Epstein's still alive, and Ash's theory is kind of that he would be a great witness. You can't bring him in any case because you would have to disclose that, but he could be brought as a surprise as an impeachment witness if he were still alive. And again, that's just speculation at this point. But these two would be fantastic witnesses that he could impeach. Everything that they just said in their testimony about no idea about what's going on with any of this, had no involvement or anything like that. That would be an impeachment, an impeachable, a witness that they could impeach. Yeah, that's pretty much all we got. We do have this one clip that's kind of interesting. It's not interesting. It's just hilarious. We railed on Benny Johnson for leaking the photo that Boebert sent him. Just like the stupidity and retardation of publishing that, knowing that photo could, backfire in some way and had no news value whatsoever. There was no point in Benny Johnson putting out pictures of Hillary Clinton while the deposition is going on, as if to say, hey, look, I'm really cool and I got a picture of this because I know people. Like, that's all it was. It was a pat on the back and a grift to make, I don't know, a couple $100 off the post.
That was retarded. Yeah, I agree.
It was so stupid. And he was getting blasted in his comments for it. And I was so happy to see that. Like, I'm scrolling through and people are like, you retard, why are you posting this? Like, what value does this have? So this is how it went down when they found out that it was leaked.
Information. Okay. I went to the fundraiser to support my friend Nia Lowy.
All right.
Excuse me, can I interrupt?
I have
There
another.
are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying from inside this room. Can you please advise me as to whether or not that's permissible and consistent with the rules, particularly given that we have asked for a public hearing? If there are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying, can you please explain how that
I'm done with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home. This is just typical behavior.
You will go off the record.
Oh, for heaven's
So I would like to understand how that's permissible.
Before the hearing was.
It doesn't
Excuse
matter.
me.
We all are abiding by the same rules.
I will take that down.
Yeah,
So
well.
I would like to take a break at this moment.
Yeah,
I'd like to have
I'm
a
done
conversation.
for now.
Go off the record. Go off the record.
I mean, I don't disagree with them there. It's like, it is kind of bullshit. It's kind of like, it's like, hey, it's like y'all made the rules and then it's like, it's an amateur move, like to be like, ooh, take a picture, like get my likes on Instagram. It's like, come on, like act like you've been there before, like be a professional, like, I mean,
Agree 100%. Hillary is in the right there. Never did not have on my bingo card supporting Hillary Clinton, but she's in the right there. That was a retarded move.
Support's going to be a strong word, but
supporting that specific.
Yeah, but she's right. She is right in that moment where it's like, that is like, you're an amateur. Like you care more about your social media likes than you do about, the gravity of this, potentially the gravity of this moment. Yeah.
Somebody says Benny didn't do it alone. Yes, he did. Lauren Boebert sent him the picture.
Well, somebody sent him the picture. So it's like, yeah,
he posted it on his own. That was, I mean, maybe he has somebody running his social media in that regard, perhaps. but he posted it. He didn't have to post it. You know how much shit I get from people that are like, hey, keep this is off the record, keep this between us, whatever. Okay, fair enough. And I'm a vault at that point. Nothing's coming out. But the second he posted that, that's on him. That's on him. And that was a grift move.
We call that we used to call that on the Q boards being a fame fag.
Fame fag.
Like you're a fame fag because you care more about that than you do about the truth. So anyway.
Yep. All right, let's we're going to start transitioning here into our war coverage. And we'll start here with this hilarious post where Gavin Newsom's press office gets absolutely obliterated. Gavin Newsom posts, average prices in California have stayed below $5 for nearly 2 years. Trump's new war is already rattling markets. We're watching this space closely. U.S. Oil and Gas Association responds, time to school the pajama boy who runs this account for the governor because this is not the flex on Trump that he thinks it is. California's imports 63% of its crude from foreign countries, despite sitting on at least 1.7 billion barrels of proven reserves. According to the California Energy Commission, here is the typical breakdown of where the foreign source crude to California is supplied from. Iraq, 21%, Brazil, 20%, Guyana, 16%, Ecuador, 14%, Colombia, 6%, Canada, 4%, Mexico, 4%, and the UAE, less than or about 2%. Others like Saudi Arabia will total out the rest of the 100% foreign share. So California's gas prices are not being influenced at the moment by the conflict that's taking place over there. Just pretty epic to see somebody punch back at him like that from outside. I don't think U.S. Gas and Oil Association, I don't think that's a government bureaucrat agency.
I don't think so. I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bureaucratic agency. I think it's a private, but either way, still hilarious to see. We got this statement here from the embassy in the Ministry of Defense, for the Saudis. Official spokesperson for the Ministry of Defense, the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh was subjected to an attack by 2 drones, according to initial estimates, resulting in a limited fire and minor material damage to the building. The building was reportedly empty. So it was evacuated. So there's no known casualties at this time. If you look at the way this has been reported on social media through X and all that, people are doing like the videos, the 12-second pixelated video of a fire. And they're like, oh, they hit the U.S. Embassy in Saudi. And it's like, come on, guys, yeah, they hit it. And yeah, there's going to be hell to pay for that kind of shit. But, it's not like if it was full of people and they killed a bunch of Americans, yeah, we got some issues. But you want to comment on that?
Yeah, fog of war. Anything you're seeing coming out right now online, you kind of just have to take everything with a grain of salt because it's all potentially just wartime propaganda. Everybody has an agenda right now to push it one way or the other, and to present optics one way or the other. And so you just have to understand that now more so than ever, everyone's being manipulated emotionally. And so just take everything with a grain of salt. Skepticism. It's very healthy to have a heavy firewall of skepticism between you and everything you're taking in right now.
Yep. All right. Let's go ahead real quick and hit another sponsor before we get too deep into this as we go along here. And stand by for just one moment. All right, there we go. Guys, they can cancel your accounts, they can freeze your cards, and they can decide what you are allowed to buy, say, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters more now than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. You can buy digital assets like Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middlemen, no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators that you actually believe in, you can use the Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line that they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently, yours to protect your future, yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom. ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership and true protection, true financial freedom. All right. Thank you to Rumble Wallet. Let's jump into this story here. CNN apparently got a 9-minute phone call with President Trump. And President Trump told CNN in their 9-minute long phone interview, quote, "We're knocking the crap out of them. I think it's going very well. It's very powerful. We've got the greatest military in the world, and we're using it." When asked on how long the war might last, the president said, quote, "I don't want to see it go on too long. I always thought it would be 4 weeks, and we're a little ahead of schedule." Asked if the U.S. is doing more beyond the military assault to help the Iranian people regain control of their country from the regime, Trump said, yes. Quote, "We haven't even started hitting them hard. The big wave hasn't even happened. The big one is coming soon." The president said, quote, "The biggest surprise," end quote, "has been Iran's attacks against Arab countries in the region, Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. We were surprised," Trump said. "We told them we've got this, and now they want to fight, and they're aggressively fighting. They were going to be very little involved, and now they insist on being involved." In terms of who might emerge to lead Iran, Trump said, quote, "We don't know who the leadership is. We don't know who they'll pick. Maybe they'll get lucky and get someone who knows what they're doing." And
wait, back up. And you said they want to be involved. Who's he talking about?
The Arab countries.
Okay.
So he says, and this was a big surprise to me as well. On Saturday morning when I woke up and I saw this, Iran's retaliation against Qatar, Jordan, Kuwait. Now, some of this I think might have been missiles that were shot down en route, and the fallout from those. But I mean, that was kind of shocking to me. I mean, I understand the dynamics of Sunni versus Shiite, and I get that the Sunni Shia aggression, but that didn't make much sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
So Trump said, "We were surprised. We told them we've got this, and now they want to fight," meaning the Arab countries, "and they're aggressively fighting. They were going to be very little involved, and now they insist on being involved." Jump down here. The president said his team tried to negotiate with the Iranians, but, quote, "We couldn't make a deal with these people. Every new offer," he said, "was met with a walkback of previous offers. The Iranians wouldn't agree to end their enrichment of uranium," Trump said. Trump said of his military action, quote, "This is the only way to deal with Iran. We don't have to worry about agreements." He pointed to the country's long history of causing destruction in the region after the 1979 revolution. "We took out Soleimani last time," Trump said. "He was an unbelievably violent, vicious general. The strike against Soleimani, quote unquote, was a big move," the president said. "If that didn't happen, then you might not have Israel today. Israel might not exist," end quote. "Then we had Midnight Hammer, very important," the president said, criticizing Obama's nuclear weapons deal. Quote, "It was the Iran nuclear deal because it gave all the power to Iran. They would have had a nuclear weapon 3 or 4 years ago. They would have used it against Israel. They maybe would have used it against us. That deal was so bad. It was a pathway to a bomb. The Iranians, quote, weren't willing to give us what we asked for. They should have done it. So it's going good," Trump said before getting off the phone. Now, this will kind of lead to, what we talked about before the show. So I called Gordon up right before the show, or actually he called me, and we wanted to figure out, like, I made an assumption on Saturday, or not an assumption, but a speculation. I speculated that this attack we were rushed into it. And I think we were rushed into it by Israel. And I've got some evidence to back that up, but I want to let you go ahead first, Gordon, if you about that.
Okay, well, okay, that's fine. I do want to see what you have to present, so let's make sure
you want me to do it first?
That. Yeah. Go ahead and do that. That's fine.
So let's start out first. I want to play this clip here of Marco Rubio just talking about the constitutionality of what's going on here. This will kind of set the tone because the next clip is the one I really want to get to. Here we go.
Why not notified Congress ahead of this, and just Congress?
Well, we did. We notified Congress. I mean, we notified the Gang of Eight. We notified congressional leadership. There's no law that requires us to do that. The law says we have to notify them 48 hours after beginning hostilities. We've done that. I think the notification went today, but we did notify members of Congress in advance. But we can't notify 535 members of Congress. And, well, the Congress can vote on whatever they want, but there's no law that requires us to do that. And I want to say something because I see people on TV. Look, that's fine. If they want to take a war powers vote, they can do that. They've done that. They've done that a bunch of times. But there's no, people keep saying that there's no law that requires the president to have done anything with regards to this. To begin with, no presidential administration has ever accepted the War Powers Act as constitutional. Not Republican presidents, not Democratic presidents. That said, we have followed the notification at 48 hours. So we're here today. I've done more Gang of Eight briefings than I got in the 4 years that Biden was president and I was a member of the Gang of Eight. All of that said, we've complied with the law 100%. And we're going to continue to comply with it. We've done the notification, and we officially to Congress, but we did notify members of Congress. We just can't notify 535 people. That's not possible, but we did the Gang of Eight twice. I briefed them last week, and then I called them the night before the operation.
Okay. So that's the constitutionality of, whether or not this is something that they're allowed to do. Again, I get what Rubio's saying. I agree that the way the law is right now, they're in the right, but I think it's against the Constitution. I think that going over there and attacking a foreign country without having a deliberate attack on us is not, it's not defense, right? It's an act of aggression, and I think it should be it should take a congressional declaration of war in order to do that, even if it's military operations, as we call it, right? But I get what Rubio's saying, because right now they're right. He's correct in what he's saying. The War Powers Resolution has been used by presidents all down the line to do this type of thing. And, just now all of a sudden, because it's Trump, they've got issues with it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that as far as precedent goes, this has been used by countless presidents to do what they're doing right now. But I tend to agree with you that before you go to do like a ground invasion, something like that, that's where you're going to require congressional approval. But I don't think there's any discussion, at least on the American side. There's certainly discussion on the Israeli side about a ground invasion, but we'll get to that in a minute.
All right, so this is where it starts to get interesting. This is a bit of a longer clip, and I'm probably going to pause it a couple times. And Gordon, if you want me to pause it at any point, feel free. But there's a few things here that Rubio says that are very interesting, and I'll show you some other things as well to back up my positions.
The United States conducted this operation with a very clear goal in mind. I haven't got a chance to see a lot of reporting. I don't understand what the confusion is. Let me explain it to you, and I'll do it once again as clearly as possible. Perhaps you'll report it that way. The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and the threat posed by their Navy, particularly to naval assets.
Okay, that's the first time I've heard the Navy being one of the root causes of this, right? Yeah. We've heard the nuclear weapons and we've heard long-range ballistic missiles, not short-range. So those are two things that are relatively new to me.
Yeah, and I have issues with this because it's what since when is having a military illegal?
Right.
Since when is having so having missiles is illegal, like having a Navy is illegal, since when? That
exactly.
That's weak sauce in my opinion. But
so are we going to go after every country that has a Navy?
Yeah.
If we don't agree, or if they protect their territorial waters? I mean, granted, the Strait of Hormuz should be open, but it's still a lot of, it's their water, at least to a certain mileage. But yeah, that's the first I've heard the Navy thing. Now, granted, I understand we've destroyed a lot of their ships as part of this operation, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. I'll leave it to the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond and respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true, because in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then
Did you catch that?
Oh, yeah. So
Marco Rubio just said that we knew Israel was going to attack. Not that we said we're in line with it or that we agreed with it or anything. We knew Israel was going to attack, and we knew that our assets in the region would be the retaliation. So we had to get involved.
Yeah. This raises all kinds of questions that are uncomfortable going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people, but they're questions that need to happen. And look, I think we owe President Trump a tremendous gratitude for demonstrating to us beyond all reasonable doubt that Israel controls our government. That debate is done. You shut the book on that.
And I'm gonna show you, Gordon, why I think I'm very concerned now. Like, I used to be a big fan of Witkoff and Kushner. I'm concerned about it now.
Okay.
And I'll show you in a second here, but keep going.
Yeah. So I do have a clip that I want to play that from Bannon.
Oh, hold on. Let me finish this one, because there's one other thing that's really
it's directly connected to what Rubio just said.
Okay, go ahead.
So it's direct. It's not. It doesn't take us to a different direction. It's just directly connected. If you want to share my screen, and I think Bannon kind of nails it here.
If Iran was attacked, then we would be attacked. Does that mean if Israel was going to attack, but that they're supposed to be allies, they're just going to attack and not coordinate with us? And that makes no sense at all. That just doesn't make any sense. I don't understand that. This is why they're the greatest ally. I don't understand that. If we knew they were going to be, that Iran was going to be attacked and they would attack us, is there no coordination in this? I think that has to be explained. I think that has to be explained.
I mean, how many weeks and months were spent building up, like sending all of those assets to the region, right? I mean, how many weeks did we see like the OSENT pictures of the planes flying across the Atlantic, flying across Europe? Like, there was a significant amount of time and resources and money spent to getting all these resources into the region, these assets into the region. And the idea was that it was a negotiation tactic to kind of scare the Iranians into negotiating with us. But the idea that, like, okay, well, you're taking all these assets, you're putting them in harm's way. Like, they're all now targets in a potential war. And now you're saying, well, because we have the powder keg sitting there, man, somebody might light it, so we should go ahead and light it ourselves before somebody else lights it. It's like, again, like the logic doesn't quite. It's like you left the alcohol out on the table for the teenagers to drink. You left the car keys out on the table for them to drive the car. You told them they could drive the car if they wanted to, and then when they went out drinking and driving, you're like surprised to hear that, oh wait, they were drinking and driving. Like, I don't know. Like, the whole thing doesn't really quite pass the smell test for me. That's just me. I've dedicated enormous bandwidth to like looking at the Middle East from a different perspective and trying to see it as a kind of the keystone to making the golden age work. So seeing the whole thing the whole place fall into disarray and fall into war is very disappointing. Not at all surprising considering what's happened. I kind of expected the whole thing the whole region to get involved. It was never going to be a war between Israel and Iran. Anyone who thought that is an idiot. Like, that was never going to be the case. And Iran was very clear about that was not going to be the case. It was going to involve everybody. But Bannon's right. Like, why did we allow ourselves to get into a situation where Israel could light the powder keg and could say, hey, we're going to go ahead and do this? We can't turn around and look at them and say, you do that and you're fucked. We're pulling our people out and you're on your own. Like, why can't we strong arm this tiny little country with no strategic resource. Like it has no strategic value. There's no strategic value to Israel. It has no resources. Its geography is not like strategically valuable. Nothing about it is valuable other than just the sentimental religious value. Other than the religious sentiment, it has no value from a geopolitical strategic standpoint, national security standpoint. It's not like a huge, like an enormous trade partner or anything like that. So why are we letting them tell us what to do and push us around, and they can then lead us into a war? Like, I'm sorry, but I don't care who the president is. That is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. Like, it's unacceptable that Israel gets to decide when and where we go to war. Sorry. It's not how I feel. In my opinion, it's not going to change because of who's president.
I agree. I said something like that yesterday. I got railed for it, and I was like, I'm just telling you guys.
I'll be the bad guy all day. I'll say it. Israel should not be deciding who goes, like, when the U.S. goes to war. Sorry, guys. If that bothers you, move to Israel. They'd love to have you. They need people in their army right now. Go sign up and join the IDF. I'm sure they give you citizenship, maybe, but maybe. They certainly would take you in the IDF, though. They need soldiers.
So let's finish this clip here up. I backed it up just a little bit so you guys could hear that part again.
To launch, in fact, those that already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act. Going back to the purpose. The purpose of this is to destroy that missile capability. Why does Iran want that ballistic missile capability? What they are trying to do and have been trying to do for a very long time is build a conventional weapons capability as a shield where they can hide behind. Meaning, there would come a point where they have so many conventional missiles, so many drones, and it can inflict so much damage that no one can do anything about their nuclear program. That is what they were trying to do, is put themselves in a place of immunity where the damage they can inflict on the region would be so high that no one can do anything about their nuclear program or their nuclear ambitions. They are producing, by some estimates, over 100 of these missiles a month. Compare that to the 6 or 7 interceptors that can be built a month. They can build 100 of these a month, not to mention the thousands of one-way attack drones that they also have.
Did you just catch what he said there? That Iran can build 100 or more of these missiles per month, but we can only build 6 to 7 interceptors.
Yeah, their productivity is beats us by more than 10 to 1, apparently, according to Rubio, which may or may not be true.
More than 10 to 1, and that's not even including our stockpiles that we've exhausted with Ukraine.
Yeah,
how many Patriot missile batteries have we sent over to Ukraine in the last 4 years?
Yeah. Now, this could be like misinformation. Like, he could be saying that intentionally to give Iran like a false sense of
or it could be justifying strikes on their missile facilities.
Yeah. It's hard to know what's real, like what is accurate here, because why would you admit that right now? Why would you say that? You're basically just telling Iran, all right, just keep sending the missiles, and eventually we're gonna run out of interceptors, and then and apparently the UAE is already saying that they have run out of interceptors, and I saw reports that we're moving batteries from South Korea potentially because we're running low. That's a problem. That's a real problem. And again, like, I don't know, man. I see people in the chat getting super triggered, thinking that I'm about to start bashing Trump. I'm not here to bash Trump. I'm here actually. I think Donald Trump is showing you what no other president could show you. He is showing you that this is an apparatus that is so deep, that is so vast, that one president can't change. One person can't change it. You think President Trump can come in here and flip over every rock in our government, millions of employees, and figure out where all of the infiltration has occurred? No
chance.
No chance. But he can show you beyond all reasonable doubt who actually controls the U.S. State Department, who controls the Pentagon, who controls the military-industrial complex. It's not Russia. It's not China. It's not Venezuela. Tell me the last war we went and started for Venezuela. What's the last war we went and started on behalf of China? How many wars have we started on behalf of Israel? How many times has Israel disrespected us and gotten away with it? The USS Liberty, right?
Yep.
When are those guys going to get like a ceremony? When are those guys going to get recognized by the U.S. government? Right? How about Jonathan Pollard, like stealing 10,000 documents of highly classified, sensitive intelligence information, giving it all to Mossad, Israel admitting their culpability in that, and then nothing happening, just nothing. No sort of like punishment, no sort of sanctions, nothing. If anything, we probably started giving them more weapons after that. You know, it's just like, how about Israel's illegal nuclear weapons program? The one that they developed with France in the 60s, the one that Kennedy tried to shut down, and they killed him for it. How about the fact that JFK was shot in the head and we don't really know who actually shot him? I mean, these are very reasonable questions that a lot of the evidence seems to point in one direction. And yet, as a country, we're not having these discussions. I mean, we're having these discussions in corners online, but why are we not talking about this at the highest levels, on the highest stages? And I think that's the problem. And until we have those conversations, we're going to keep having wars. We're going to keep doing things on behalf of other countries. And you can sit here and make this about Donald Trump. I'm not making it about Donald Trump. I'm making this about the military industrial complex. The momentum that pushed us into this, that you saw coming for years and years and years and years. Netanyahu said it. For 40 years, I've been dreaming about this. Finally, there's video of him going back decades calling for this. This wasn't like an imminent thing. Like if we didn't do this today, we were all going to die. That's bullshit. So Trump had his reasons for doing it. We aren't privy to those reasons necessarily because we don't have that classified data, like the classified intelligence. That's fine. Maybe one day we will have it. All we can do is operate from the information we do have. And what we have are the optics and the intel that this is what Israel wanted. This is what Netanyahu wanted. There is no direct national security imperative for us to do it. And now this is going to cause all sorts of issues in the Middle East and in the region that are going to spin off on us. Are we still going to get the $17 trillion or $10 trillion or whatever from the Gulf states if they have to invest that money to like rebuild their own nations? You know, I mean, this is going to have reverberating effects that are beyond just like a war between Iran and Israel. So is Israel even going to survive this? I mean, like there are serious concerns about does Israel even have the capacity to hold off all the missiles that they're going to send eventually? I mean, we'll see. I have videos of Mike Huckabee that we're going to play that are concerning. I got to say, about like from a safety standpoint.
Did you see what France is doing?
That they're going to start building more nukes and they're going to stop
building more nukes. And France says he's going to stop. Macron says they're going to stop reporting on the number of nukes that they have, and they're basically going rogue nuclear state.
Yeah, and just to be clear, France is the one who helped Israel develop their secret nuclear program. And Israel,
they're also the ones that flew the Ayatollah Khomeini to Iran, as we talked about yesterday with JB.
Because he was living in Paris up until 1979. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, where is the accountability there? Zero. None. Where is the accountability for the fact that Israel hasn't signed a single nuclear proliferation treaty ever?
Non-nuclear proliferation.
Yeah, whatever. Like non-nuclear proliferation treaty. There's only 4 countries that fall into that category, and Israel's the only one who has never signed a single one. The other ones have at least, I think, signed a few, as I understand it.
We don't know for sure if they have nukes, Gordon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, except for the fact that like Mark Levin's admitted it now. He's been like, yeah, they have like 200 nukes, of course. It's like, okay.
So let's jump into this first and foremost. So I've covered this article on Saturday on my show on Saturday when this news broke. And I said on that show, I said on Saturday morning, I think Israel struck. They weren't supposed to strike. And President Trump has to kind of clean up the mess that Israel made by doing that without the full backing of the United States. You know, they kind of went rogue a little bit here. It might have been planned to happen, but for some reason, Israel pulled the trigger and said, we got to do it now. And the United States was kind of like trying to play catch up and get, all their ducks in a row with this. By the way, I don't know if you've, the top headlines update as the new article comes up, Iran accuses U.S. of fighting on behalf of Israel as Middle East turmoil continues. Thought that was fascinating. U.S. and Iran wrap up most serious nuclear talks in Geneva. This was from Friday. Okay. And we talked about this. I'm not going to go crazy reading this, but basically Araghchi, the foreign minister of Iran, Busaidi, the Omani foreign minister, Oman was acting as the mediator in this. Witkoff and Kushner all sat down and had these negotiations. This article right here that I reported on Saturday and again on Monday's daily basically said that these were contentious talks, but we made a lot of progress. Let me jump down here to this part right here. It says Tehran made clear that any agreement must respect its sovereign right to enrich uranium for peaceful purposes, a position Iranian officials describe as non-negotiable, designating the nuclear industry as a core national strategic asset. However, Iran has reportedly offered significant concessions, including a temporary freeze on high-level enrichment, reducing enrichment levels from the current 60% purity down to as low as 1.5%. So keep that in mind. I'm going to play a clip here from Steve Witkoff, on Hannity last night. And this is a bit of a long clip, but I want you to pay attention to, because we're seeing competing factions here, right? You're going to have Kushner and Witkoff telling the American people this, while, it's probably Araghchi. Is that how you say it, Araghchi?
Yeah, I think so.
Araghchi. And Busaidi telling the RT writers, their side of the story. So you have two competing factions. So let's go ahead and play this clip here of Witkoff on Hannity last night, and let's see how they interpreted the negotiations as going.
If we can. My understanding was you got to a point where you were discussing enriched uranium at very low levels for civilian purposes, although I don't think they really need it because they have all the energy they'd ever want. But
first off, fuck you, Hannity. Nuclear energy is infinitely better than anything that's out there in terms of production. He's like, well, they have all the energy they want. They don't need the nuclear energy. That's absurd.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
Did that come up? Was that offer made to them?
We discussed with them 10 years of no enrichment whatsoever, and we would pay for the fuel, and it was flatly rejected. And the president sent us in there to have a good faith negotiation. Pardon me?
You're saying that we would give it to them? And they rejected that?
We actually had that, and they rejected that, which told us at that very moment that they had no notion of doing anything other than retaining enrichment for the purpose of weaponizing.
You made a statement last week, and when I heard it, and I've known you for a long time, and you are a friend, and when you made the statement that, in fact, they may be a week away from possibly having capability, at that moment, I interpreted that to mean it's go time, it's over. Was I wrong? Was that the moment that it was over?
Well, I don't know if that exact moment it was over, but I know this. They have 10,000 roughly kilograms of fissionable material. That's broken up into roughly 460 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium, another 1,000 kilograms of 20% enriched uranium, and the balance is at 3.67.
By the way, just to throw this out there, none of those enrichment levels are in violation of their non-proliferation agreement.
Yeah, and isn't that last level, like the 3.67, isn't that like the typical enrichment level that you need for a nuclear reactor and medical grade use?
Correct. I think it's either 3.67 or it might be the 1.5 number that we just talked about in the article, because but either way,
I think it's 3.67 if I'm not mistaken for the reactor, but yeah, whatever.
And this is the same conversation, Gordon, that we had when Midnight Hammer took place, in the build up to Midnight Hammer, when everybody was crying about Iran's nuclear capabilities. And we're like, guys, they're not enriching uranium.
You have to enrich. My understanding is you have to enrich over 90%.
90%, yeah.
And anything less than that, the best you can do is like a dirty bomb, right? That's my understanding.
Right. And the argument is, well, they could enrich it to 90% in a week. Yeah, but they're not. They're not. And if you can't move the goalpost, right? You're shifting the Overton window, right? You're moving that number further. Well, they could get to 90%. So we have to take the preemptive action. And this is, again, why, Gordon, you and I talked about this as well. This is why I think after Midnight Hammer, President Trump made Netanyahu come out and announce that their nuclear program has been obliterated. It's sent back to, the Stone Age. And then President Trump came out and was like, we obliterated their nuclear program. But let's get back into this.
They manufacture their own centrifuges to enrich this material. So there's almost no stopping them. They have an endless supply of it. The 60% material, Sean, can be brought to 90%. That's weapons grade, in roughly 1 week, maybe 10 days at the outside. The 20% can be brought to weapons grade inside of 3 to 4 weeks. And let me say this, because I forgot this small little detail. In that first meeting, both the Iranian negotiators said to us directly, with no shame, that they controlled 460 kilograms of 60%, and they're aware that that could make 11 nuclear bombs, and that was the beginning of their negotiating stance. So they were proud of it. They were proud that they had
11 nuclear bombs. We have like 2,600. France has over 300. But 11, and they could potentially make 11.
Evaded all sorts of oversight protocols to get to a place where they could deliver 11 nuclear bombs.
What I wouldn't do to be a fly on the wall in that room, because Steve, you're a negotiator. You've run the most successful businesses, built some of the most beautiful golf courses. It defies all logic and reason for them to sit there as if Midnight Hammer never happened and dictate to you that the one thing that President Trump insisted on, they can't get a nuclear weapon, they're going to go forward anyway. How stupid are they? Were they?
Well,
they're done. They're gone now.
Well, it was pretty silly, but they thought they could strong arm us. President Trump sent me and Jared there to really determine on his behalf whether they were serious about doing a deal that addressed his objectives, which are elimination of their missile program, elimination of their advocacy and support for proxies, which is destabilizing the entire Middle East, elimination of their Navy so we can have freedom of the seas and not be threatened with the shutdown of the Gulf of Hormuz. And finally, no nuclear enrichment that can get them to weapons grade, which means no nuclear bomb. And we went in there and tried to make a fair deal with them. And it was very, very clear that it was going to be impossible, probably by the end of the second meeting. But we then went back for the third meeting just to give it the last college try. And of course, they thought they wanted us to report positivity. It was not positive, that meeting.
Oh, Steve Witkoff, I know you've been flying all
right. So again, Gordon, right before we went live on the show, and this was literally like I've had 3 minutes, so this is very surface level. I went through this article right here, and I was like, who were the parties to this meeting? And you've got obviously the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, and of course he's going to be favorable to Iran. The Omani Foreign Minister Badr al-Busaidi. I mean, Oman's the mediator, so they're supposed to be a neutral party, right? And they were saying that they made significant progress in that meeting. But then you got this guy here, the participation of the International Atomic Energy Administration chief, Rafael Grossi, as a quote unquote technical observer. So just briefly, I went on Grok and asked Grok, what did Rafael Grossi say about the Iran negotiations in Geneva? IAEA Director General Rafael Grossi has commented on the recent Iranian negotiations in Geneva, primarily the indirect U.S.-Iran talks mediated by Oman, with rounds including February 17th and especially February 26th. He attended the February 26th round in Geneva as a technical observer/advisor, focusing on verification aspects of Iran's nuclear program. He provided technical input and discussed specifics with both sides. In an interview with Christiane Amanpour from Geneva after attending the talks, he described, quote, a sense of finality in these negotiations, discussing outcomes and prospects amid risk of U.S. military action. He noted that the talks were at a critical, quote unquote, peak, urging success because failure could lead to dramatic decisions or increase military risk significantly, given U.S. military buildup, closing the diplomatic window. In an IAEA official statement, his introductory remarks, blah, blah, blah. Where's the end? He referenced his close involvement in supporting diplomatic efforts, including his February 16th in-depth, blah, blah, blah. The February 26 talks ended without a full deal, claims of significant progress by mediators like Oman's foreign minister, but no breakthrough, and follow-up technical discussions in Vienna were postponed amid escalation. Grossi has since emphasized returning to diplomacy post any conflict, while noting ongoing challenges like lost contact with Iranian regulators after recent strikes. So it seems like you've got everybody that was involved in that meeting, except for the U.S. diplomats, saying that there was progress being made. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But they were continuing the meeting. There was supposed to be a meeting yesterday in Vienna, a continuation of these talks. And that, of course, didn't happen. But what Witkoff is coming out and saying is in contradiction to what two independent sources and an interested party, the foreign minister of Iran, is saying that they were willing to give up dilute the enriched uranium down to 1.5% with IAEA oversight. And I think Israel saw what was going to happen. I think Israel realized that there was going to be a diplomatic solution to this, and they jumped the gun. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. And I even wrote about on Friday in the news brief. One of the storylines that came out of the Geneva meeting was that Iran had offered, or was planning on, they hadn't offered formally in the meeting, but they were planning on offering rare earth minerals, gas, oil, like basically like a big economic trade package, like kind of piggybacking off of what they saw Trump did with Venezuela. They're like, all right, well, we can do something like that. We can offer economic incentive to get this thing across the line. I thought we were going to see a trade deal come out of it. I thought we were going to see Trump announce a big trade deal, and we were going to see, that was kind of usher in the golden age, the age of peace. I was hoping that would be the way this would go. But again, I have to remind everyone, because there are probably a lot of new people here, of my first appearance on this platform 3 years ago. If you want to share my screen. I think what they're trying to do, this is just me prognosticating, but I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to establish the precedent or the idea that Israel is going to need to preemptively attack Iran to thwart a potential nuclear strike against Israel. And that's going to suck everybody into this giant fight, this giant kinetic battle. And when I said that, that was June of 2023. That was when the Middle East was at the greatest level of peace it had been in generations. Nobody was talking about the Middle East at that point. Everyone was talking about Ukraine. It seemed almost like it seemed almost absurd to consider there would be a war in the Middle East at that point. But this is just something that I've been tracking for a long time. And so again, like when I talk about this stuff, it doesn't even matter who's the president at this point. It's like, this is something that has been in the works for so long, and there's so much momentum behind it that it almost was inevitable. I think this was just absolutely inevitable. This was going to happen. It was just a question of when, where, and how. And here we are. So yeah, I mean, I don't know what to make of the Wickoff thing. That is strange. We had Tulsi Gabbard last March say that there's no evidence to support the idea that Iran was making a nuclear weapon. I think there was I don't know if it was a DNI report, but an intelligence community report assessment under Tulsi Gabbard and Trump back in October that came out that said the same thing. Said there's no evidence to suggest that Iran is making a nuclear weapon. We've had Putin say it multiple times. We've had Pezeshkian and Arakchi say it multiple times. I mean, I believe Putin is someone who is not trying to get the world destroyed in a nuclear Armageddon. So I think if he knew that they were making a nuclear weapon and were planning on, something they were going to use, he would be trying to stop that too. but he's said the exact. There's been a lot of consistent reporting from different sources. That's my point, and they all seem to say the same thing, that this is not happening. And it seems like these political entities are the only ones who are telling us. Fox News, the neocons, Lindsey Graham, they seem to be the only ones that are telling us this is happening. It's very strange. It's very, very strange. And of course, the net effect of it all is war, which there are plenty of people who get really rich off this stuff and get other incentives out of it, political incentives and otherwise geopolitical incentives. So we have to be aware of that. We'll see what happens. But what is very clear is that doesn't seem like we're getting the full story. I've said it multiple times before. I don't think a nuclear warhead is what Iran requires in order to take out Israel, because the core argument underlying all of this is that the reason they want a nuclear warhead is to destroy Israel. Well, the argument can also be made, if they are actually pursuing a nuclear warhead, is they want it for deterrence, to deter somebody from attacking them, as France has already made clear, and other countries. Saudi Arabia said the same thing. Many other countries have said, we want a nuclear weapon because if we have a nuclear weapon, nobody will attack us out of fear of retribution. So that argument should also be considered. But if the concern is that Iran is too irresponsible to have a nuclear weapon, and if they get one, they're going to destroy Israel. That's the premise that we're being presented right now. That's why we have to start a war to stop it. Although that goalpost seems to be getting moved a little bit, because apparently now it's about ballistic missiles and Navy and whatever. Again, they have enough ballistic missiles to just carpet bomb Israel, or just take out strategic points, energy infrastructure, water infrastructure, and make the place uninhabitable. So I feel like that if that was their desire, they would do that. They would have already done that. If they were so irresponsible that they're going to do it regardless, like even at their own destruction, why haven't they done it yet? Like up until this point. I mean, they may do it now that they're at war with Israel, but those are always the questions I have. Is like, well, if they had all this capability that Marco Rubio just affirmed, why haven't they just gone ahead and done it? Like, why wait for like permission from the world to do it? Like, why wait for the justification? Why not just launch everything you have at Israel and just wipe it out? Who needs a nuclear warhead? So again, these are just like really basic logic exercises that I've been running through on my own for years, and I can't really get to a real answer. And that's why I raise questions here. It's okay to ask questions about this stuff. It's okay to poke holes in the assertions that are being made by people on TV. And again, I just go back to like, what is the actual accusation being levied here? Because it's not quite adding up to me. So it suggests to me that there's something else going on. What that is, I have no idea. I couldn't possibly know.
I'm with you 100%. There is no justification. And I said this right away. Like anybody, whenever you use the term preemptive as a justification, and there is no evidence to suggest, like Ghost was just saying, that Iran was somehow going to attack Israel. That there just wasn't. Are there tit for tats back and forth? The Hezbollah, they chalk all of that up to specifically Iran ignoring the own influence that the United States has over those. And we can go through, in Lebanon, the influence that the U.S. has, and in Jordan, the influence. But there was never any evidence that Iran was actually going to attack Israel, and like you said, they keep moving these goalposts. So where does this go? I mean, is this going to be a days-long event, a weeks-long event, months-long? I mean, what's the off-ramp for the United States? And
what's the objective? Like, what's the end game? I mean, this is like Iraq. Like, ask the question. Like, what's the objective? What's the end game? What's the moment that we say, all right, mission accomplished, we're done, walk away, right? It's like what, like that. Those objectives should be very clear. Those should be laid out. Anyone who's suggesting that we shouldn't question things because President Trump's in power, that's silly. Like, I'm sorry, this is the government. Like, we're going to question what the government does at all times, every day of the week. And to suggest otherwise is just asinine. Like, we're gonna have these conversations and we're gonna ask questions and we're gonna be curious. We can do that without falling into like mudslinging and getting ugly about it. Like let's play this video. This is or let's look at this real quick. So this is from the for the people who think that we're doing this for Israel and think that that's a noble thing and think that Israel needs to be protected. Look at this. This is from the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. The U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem is not in a position at this time to evacuate or directly assist Americans in departing Israel. The following is provided for your information as you make your own security plans. The Israeli Ministry of Tourism has begun operating shuttles to the Taba border, that's Egypt, crossing as of March 2nd. To be added to the passenger list for a shuttle, you must register via the ministry's evacuation form. The U.S. Embassy cannot make any recommendation for or against the Ministry of Tourism's shuttle. If you choose to avail yourself of this option to depart, the U.S. government cannot guarantee your safety. The information is provided as a courtesy to those wishing to leave Israel. Passengers who wish to cross to Jordan may take the shuttle to Eilat and continue independently by taxi to the Yitzhak Rabin border crossing. And then here is a video that was put out. It's been condensed down to 41 seconds. It's like 3.5 minutes. We're not going to watch the full one. This is from Mike Huckabee, posted to his X account.
Are you playing it?
Yeah. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm not sharing the right one. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me start it over.
Greetings to all U.S. citizens who might be in Israel right now. This is Mike Huckabee, U.S. Ambassador to Israel. And I know that there's a lot of anxiety from a lot of people about wanting to leave the country. Right now, the options are fairly limited. The airport is closed, of course, and we don't know when it will be open or how many flights. What we are recommending to all of our American citizens, including our own embassy staff, is follow the directions of Home Front Command, which are right now to shelter in place and to be close to a shelter at all times. Follow the alerts. If you hear the siren, make sure you take cover. That's the best thing you can do. Greetings to all U.S. citizens.
Yeah, so basically it's just
posted.
This was posted. Let me see. I think it was posted yesterday.
To me, that's more evidence that this was a kind of a rogue. I don't want to say
7 hours ago. So early this morning, like overnight.
I still think that that's more evidence that Israel jumped the gun on this attack.
Yeah,
there would have been memos sent out to evacuate, hours before the attack, like GTFO, get out of Dodge, and now you've got Americans that are going to be trapped there. And that's going to be retaliation in Israel.
And that's kind of strange, yeah. And I mean, again, like if Israel runs out of the interceptors, if Israel is unable to stave off the
even sling can't defeat Goliath.
Yeah, a giant attack. Iran is saying, Iran and the Russians are saying it too. The Russians are saying, like Medvedev said, Iran hasn't even like unleashed like their serious stuff yet. They've just been sending in like their missiles that probably with the idea of like getting
stuff.
Yeah, like getting Israel to waste all of their interceptors, right? So once all the interceptors are used up, then they'll send the stuff that actually will do the real damage. I mean, potentially, who knows? But there's this too. So like the Russians are saying they've lost contact with Iran's nuclear sector leadership. That's from Rosatom. Rosatom is the agency that has been building nuclear reactors all over the world for all these different, or has signed agreements with all these different countries, sovereign alliance countries, to build them nuclear reactors. They're saying they've lost contact with the team in Iran. We have yesterday, I think Putin and Lavrov spoke to every single Muslim country in the Middle East yesterday, so they're all coordinating right now. We have the largest oil refinery in the world has been shut down. That's Saudi Aramco. Let me see, right, where is that? Right here, the Ras Tanura refinery, which is the largest refinery in the world, shut down after Iranian drone strike. Strange development there, because we then had, and again, like it's like I said at the beginning, skepticism on everything. So here's the Rosatom chief, Likachev, confirming that they have 693 Russians working at this site, and they've lost contact with Iran's nuclear industry leaders. So right now they are, I guess, trying to figure out what's going on. They have an hourly check-in, he says, as the only line of communication still open with these Russian staffers. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens there. And then this is weird. We have the deputy foreign minister for Iran going on CNN and saying that Iran was not the one who attacked the Aramco sites right here.
This issue, we have already been in touch with our Saudi brothers, and we have talked about this issue. Iran is not responsible for the attack against the oil installations in Saudi Arabia. We have made it clear. We have officially announced today that was not one of the targets of the Iranian armed forces.
And then we also have Iran coming out and saying that they're accusing Israel of running false flag operations against these oil refineries and other places in the Middle East. They're saying that it's Israel that's attacking these places and then trying to blame it on Iran. Again, it's just information. Like we don't know if that's the truth or not. We also have Tucker Carlson coming out and saying the same thing, which is a very strange, odd development. So here's Tucker.
Look at Crowder's byline for his show today.
What does it say?
The title. Did Marco Rubio really admit Israel led us into war?
Yeah, he did. All right, so here's Tucker.
Last night in Qatar and Saudi Arabia, authorities arrested Mossad agents planning on committing bombings in those countries. Now, that's weird. That doesn't make any sense. Why would the Israelis be committing bombings in two Gulf countries, which are also being attacked by Iran? Aren't they on the same side? No. Israel wants to hurt Iran and Qatar and UAE and Saudi and Bahrain and Oman and Kuwait. Last night.
Well, he is right. So, I mean, obviously, like the information he shares, who knows if that's true or not. And it wouldn't be normal for Saudi Arabia, and I would assume Qatar, like Saudi Arabia's pretty private. They don't like just put information out like that. So if they had arrested Mossad agents, they would probably be using that and negotiating like through back channels and talking through back channels and not just like putting that out to the public, because that's not really their style. And until they had like a reason to put it out to the public. So the fact that hasn't been reported yet doesn't necessarily disprove that as false, but he is right about the fact that Saudi Arabia and Qatar have obviously been hostile nations by Israel at this point. Primarily, Qatar obviously has been at the forefront of that. They've been blaming Qatar for everything, but Saudi Arabia, now that they refuse to normalize until the two-state solution is in place, Saudi's been identified as an enemy as well. So he's right when he says that they're not allies, that they're definitely not allies. That's for sure. And what's being described here, what's being alleged, would follow a pattern that we see throughout history of Mossad engaging in these kind of operations to point the finger, but like to build public sentiment towards a war that they are in support of. So is it plausible? Yeah, it's plausible. Does that make it accurate or true? No, it doesn't. So again, it's just information, but seems to me that if any of that stuff is true, that is certainly going to impact the calculus of this entire thing. And I think it really changes the dynamic of what's happening here. And it's worth pointing out that the people who are trying to make peace, who's trying to make peace right now? Putin's trying to make peace. Erdogan in Turkey's trying to make peace. Saudi Arabia, MBS is trying to make peace. I think all those people are interested in this being de-escalated, the temperature being brought down, because the more that they get bombed, the more that this thing escalates, the more they're going to be impacted regionally. And if your goal is to build up this new society, as Saudi Arabia is trying to do, that's going to impact that. People aren't going to invest billions of dollars in your country with missiles flying overhead.
Did you see President Trump's truth post this morning?
I didn't.
The air defense, Air Force, Navy, and leadership is gone. They want to talk. I said, too late. Yeah, kind of interesting.
I guess we'll see. But yeah, I mean, it's, like Pete Hegseth says, this is not a regime change war, but they've already changed the regime, haven't they? I mean, hasn't the Ayatollah been killed?
It's not a regime change war, but the regime has changed.
The regime has changed. Did you see this from Zero Hedge? Share my screen. Again, like, who knows if this is true? This is just information. But according to CIA, Khamenei replacement will likely be more hardlined than the old Ayatollah. Before the U.S. and Israel launched a war against Iran on Saturday morning and killed Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who, by the way, I'm not even convinced Khamenei was still alive. I think he died like a while ago, but that's just my opinion.
Wow.
Doesn't really matter. But it says the CIA assessed that if the Iranian leader was killed, his rule would likely be replaced by hardline figures from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Reuters has reported. The report said that the assessment has produced over the past 2 weeks as the U.S. was building up its forces in the region and preparing to launch the war. The New York Times reported that the CIA has been tracking Khamenei for months and knew that he would be at his compound in Tehran meeting senior Iranian officials on Saturday morning, where he was hit by a joint U.S.-Israeli strike. Since Khamenei's death, the Iranian government has created a council headed by Ayatollah Ali Reza Arafi, to govern the country until Iran's Assembly of Experts chooses a new supreme leader. Killing Khamenei does not appear to have impacted Iran's military operations as Iranian missiles and drones continue to hit targets across the region, including in Israel and countries hosting U.S. military bases. Yeah, and so I think there's two last things that I want to look at, but I wanted to kind of kick it back to you if you have anything else.
I was just looking at I was just briefly looking at the WAPO article that Trump was citing there, and holy shit. We're witnessing the birth of the Trump doctrine. Opinion from Mark Thiessen at Washington Post. And let me just read the first paragraph. Critics say President Trump's decision to strike Iran is a violation of his promise not to engage in forever wars. In fact, the opposite is true. Trump is not starting a forever war in Iran. He's ending one. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has been waging war against the United States. That war began in 1979 when Iran seized the U.S. embassy in Tehran, taking more than 50 American hostages for 444 days. The war continued as Iran orchestrated the 83 bombings of the U.S. embassy and Marine barracks in Beirut that killed 258 Americans, mostly Marines, followed by the 1996 bombing of the Khobar Towers in Saudi Arabia that killed 19 Americans. It continued in 98 when Iran provided direct assistance to top al-Qaeda for the 1998 bombing of the U.S. embassies in Kenya.
The Lebanese bombing, those guys were ultimately exonerated. They were found, the Hezbollah was found not to be involved at all. And if anything, it actually might have been Mossad who did that. That was more and more, all the evidence looks like it was Mossad. It took like 30 or 40 years to get those guys into a trial, but they finally were exonerated that they weren't the ones who did it.
Continued in 98 when Iran provided quote-unquote direct assistance to al-Qaeda for the 98 bombing of the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, training its quote operatives about how to blow up buildings, according to a ruling by the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia. It's banging on the FAGA talking point that's going on right now. This has been a 47-year war. No, it hasn't. Now, I do agree with what President Trump said in his first speech about, this isn't regime change, but we're going to give the Iranian people the opportunity to put their own regime in place. And we've talked about this going back to, 79 and the kind of Brzezinski influence that they had in Iran. I'm willing to give, President Trump, of course, the benefit of the doubt on that specific point. If you take the Ayatollah out and you give the people the opportunity for the self-determination, okay, fair enough. But now we're drumming up this whole, we've been at war with Iran for 47 years, and that's just absurd.
Why did the Reagan administration sell weapons to the Ayatollah?
Exactly.
With the Israelis' help. The Israelis were the middleman. They were the ones who actually went and met with them and delivered the weapons. Why did we do that? If the Ayatollah was our enemy from day one? Why did we take the revenue from those weapon sales and then give them to the Contras in Nicaragua to overthrow governments in South America? Why did we do that? Again, like these are just basic questions that nobody wants to answer. And it's inconvenient, but let's answer the questions. So again, the logic has to be sound. Like if it's the truth, then it can stand up to scrutiny. And if it's the truth, then basic questions like this can be easily answered and it will remain consistent with the core thesis that's being presented here. It's just not consistent. So, and so the last thing I want to do is I want to play.
Can you wrap it up here in like the next 3 or 4 minutes?
Yeah. I want to play like one and a half minutes of this Eric Prince clip. I mean, Eric, I feel like who am I to talk about this stuff? Eric Prince knows way more about war than I do. So
wait, that's Jack Posobiec.
Yeah. He's about Eric Prince about to come on. Okay. This is from his appearance on Bannon's show on Sunday. So let's watch this for like a minute and a half, and then I have a 20-second clip of Benny Gantz that's gonna address what Eric Prince is saying here.
Okay.
It seems like it's not as intense as the strike that ended the 12-day war, but spectacular results, correct? I mean, they took out the Ayatollah and his top 40 guys, having a picnic lunch in the afternoon or gathering. The intelligence was pretty special in the fact they took the Ayatollah and 40 of his top guys out, sir.
Look, Steve, it's I'm not happy about the whole thing. I don't think this was in America's interest. It's going to uncork a significant can of worms and chaos and destruction in Iran now. Who takes over? You still have hundreds of thousands of IRGC people that will be positioning to be number 2, to be the next rulers of that country. I don't see how this is in keeping with the president's MAGA commitment. I'm disappointed.
Well, talk to us about that, because I've been putting up on social media. He said regime change. He made this comment the other night. The Ayatollah's gone. His 40 top guys are gone. Don't you just toss it to the Persians and say, because he keeps saying rise up from the streets. I haven't seen massive demonstrations or massive people coming out in Tehran. There have been some running around shouting they're supporting it, but is the plan to decapitate? Do you think the president's accomplished that and now can just move on?
I think, and again, who comes after that? I don't know that there's a plan. These are ultimately solved by ground combat. I don't think a regime has ever been changed by air power alone. It's wishful thinking, and now it is indeed cost American lives. I don't buy the argument that it was only because of they were doing it to preempt. When you load that many troops and that many aircraft in the immediate area, you could almost guarantee a response. But again, how does the regime get changed? I don't think that Reza Pahlavi is a strong enough.
You're muted.
Talk about the ground forces real quick, because the Kurdistan is now becoming part of it.
Say that again. You were muted.
Just listen to what he says here.
Okay.
Some combination of UAE,
not Israel, or not UAE.
In American, you're saying
hell
Israel
no.
or some. You said you had to have a substantial ground force to really do regime change here. You're not implying that would have to be an American. You're saying Israel
no.
or some combination of UAE.
Not Israel, or not UAE. Iranians from across the ethnic spectrum there that are willing to take up arms and go against the IRGC and free themselves.
So they have a huge army that's not our IRGC. Now, it may be equivalent to a militia, but you're arguing that to see regime change here, that army or some part of that organized that's not IGRC, or maybe some rebel units from that are going to have to lead the Persian people against the apparatus?
Yeah, I mean, the natural option here would be the Kurds, the the Iraqi Kurds, supporting the Iranian Kurds to do it. But this is an extremely bold move. I don't know why it was decided that I had to do it now. I'm shocked, and I'm just wondering what political pressure was brought to bear for the president to make this, because this is certainly not what he campaigned on.
Okay, so it is being reported by Axios and Mark Caputo at Axios that Trump and Netanyahu are talking to the Kurds right now, and Trump's trying to get the Kurds involved. So that does track with what Eric Prince is saying there. So the last thing I want to play is Benny Gantz, Israeli politician, former IDF general, being interviewed in Israel, I think yesterday.
There will be a need for boots on the ground.
I would not exclude it for those reasons or other, but we'll have to see how it goes forward.
And will that include Israeli boots on the ground, do you think?
I exclude nothing. We've been waiting for 47 years, and we came to a point that every necessary means should be taken in order to achieve our goals.
What we're seeing from
So there you have it. So, and that guy's the opposition, one of the opposition figures to Netanyahu. So even the opposition to Netanyahu is talking about boots on the ground now, in Iran. And he was asked initially, U.S. and Israeli boots on the ground.
Just Israeli, just the IDF. You guys want to fuck around? You guys go find out. No U.S. boots on the ground.
But remember, I pointed this out with the David's corridor in Syria. I said that's the reason they wanted Syria, is they wanted that little corridor along the southern part of Syria to get to the Euphrates, to get to Kurdistan, so they could get. I was on John Harold's show a year ago talking about that. That's what Syria was about, and so that might be what's coming to fruition here. We'll see, but you can be damn sure that Netanyahu is going to be pushing for U.S. troops on the ground if Israel's going in.
All right, let's go ahead and get another word from our sponsor, and then we will get into some rants and wrap this up for the day. Guys, I want to tell you about something that's not well known, but it is incredibly powerful. It's called Ace Manan, and it's a compound from aloe vera that massively supports your body's stem cell production, cell health, and immune system function. That matters because your body replaces about 1% of its cells every day. As we age or have health issues, we produce cells less efficiently. The thing is, almost no aloe products have Ace Manan because it breaks down after harvest, and you can't get enough from eating raw aloe because aloe's laxative compound. However, Emerald Med created a stabilized Ace Manan supplement with the laxative compound removed. It's called Aloe RX. They made it for pharmacies, and now it's available to the public. I want to explain the value of Aloe RX. Stem cell injections can have amazing results, but can cost over $10,000 to $40,000 per treatment. Aloe RX isn't the same thing as stem cell injections, but it massively supports your own body's stem cell reproduction for less than $100. You could literally give your body this for 16 years for the same price as one stem cell treatment. For people who don't need something extreme like a stem cell injection, but want to help their body significantly, this is arguably the best value on the market. The longer you take it, the more compounding support you have. If you want to support a company that supports our channel and free speech with ads, check out Emerald Med's Aloe RX. Click the link below to learn more about it and get 30% off Aloe RX today. And I actually just bought it. I haven't gotten it yet, but I just bought it the last time we had that ad pop up. So I will let you guys know what I think of it.
Hold on. MPG Stewart in the chat is saying to look at Disclosed TV right now. Hey, okay, yeah, here it is. Let's watch this.
Force your hand to launch these strikes against Iran? Did Netanyahu pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people that do this very successfully and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. But Israel was ready and we were ready. And we've had a very, very powerful impact.
Now that is interesting. That is really interesting. Forcing Israel into a war that it clearly cannot fight.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Well, actually, it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense to me. If that is like signal right there, because Netanyahu wants everyone else to go fight the war for him, and now Israel's fighting the war, and they're gonna have to. He's gonna have to cut a deal if they start getting bombed out by Iran. Netanyahu's gonna have to cut a deal with them, and so interesting. this is an interesting development. If this is like 40 chess, if Trump is actually the one pushing them into it, and now they have to go learn to play nice, we'll see. But interesting.
All right, briefly, I forgot to do rants yesterday. I apologize. EC was here, says it's quite the white pill to realize what Americans have in common with Iranians. Both our governments are riddled with Mossad agents. Good point. The Meerkat, Brian, I love your father-in-law's audio gear. See my reply to your post. And I did, and thank you so much. His audio gear is pretty damn badass. Let's go ahead. These are today's rants here. So thank you for those yesterday. I apologize for not getting to them yesterday. Today's rants. Emerald Dragon, my 2 cents of the day. The 14th Amendment was created for released slaves, aka second-class citizens, referred to as U.S. citizens. Civil rights are the quote-unquote rights of slaves. We have rights. I agree. But it was unconstitutionally ratified, and I don't have that up on the stage. There was military governments installed throughout the southern states, and you cannot, it's not an elected government that is ratifying those amendments. Kairos 5326, now a monthly supporter. Thank you so much. Lee Walden, morning, fellas. It's amazing they can have hearings on Department of Homeland Security and Iran, but can't reopen the government. What the fuck? Agreed.
Morning, Lee.
Vera Barra One, Canadian gal here. Just want to say thank you for being my daily news source on what's happening in the world. God bless and keep the USA. Thank you.
Cheers.
Absolutely. Bobu Afu. Iran has been funding and running attacks against Israel and has placed cells in U.S., I think. Yeah,
Maybe.
that we might have some cells here, but again, I don't look at Iran necessarily as the aggressor in this. Lee Walden, what happened? Brian, what happens if Trump activates the Insurrection Act? Does the president have to inform Congress? The Insurrection Act is only for within the continental United States. You can't have the Insurrection Act outside of the U.S. Lee Walden, if I'm not mistaken, China gets a lot of the oil from Iran, all in the black market, priced the third leg of China's energy consumption.
I don't know if it's black market. I think they're just buying it from them on the open market. But yes, it's something between like 40. I think it used to be 60. I think now it's 40. I've seen it reported both ways. 40%, 60% of their oil comes from Iran. But actually, India gets like most of their oil from Iran as well. So India and China, which are two major producers for the world in terms of manufacturing. Yeah, for them to lose their oil. Although I saw that Iran is going to allow Chinese and Russian ships to move through the Strait of Hormuz. So we'll see.
All right, A.K. Lou, I appreciate both of your takes. Brian, watched you on Saturday morning as we were seeing what was unfolding, and Gordon's consistent commentary on Israel. Appreciate you both. Thank you.
Thank you. The very generous rant.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Meerkat, Brian, in case you forgot my rant from yesterday, I got it. It's just said, I love your father-in-law speaker setup. You post on X and then make sure you see my reply on it. I did. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
That was impressive.
Yeah, dude, it sounds so fucking good. So good. Makes sense to me. Just wondering why they allowed Boebert to question the Clintons. She sucked. Was Jim Jordan unavailable?
Is that who was questioning them? Was Boebert?
One of them, yeah. There's a bunch of them. Raskin was in there. I'm going to listen to it eventually, today or tomorrow. Yeah. Bobu Afu, Ghost, your answer? CIA. Yep.
That is more often than not the answer.
Lee Walden, great job, guys. Thanks. And thank you, Lee. Good to see you. May 60. Like to hear a clip of that sound system playing some music loudly, probably. It won't do it any justice, but I'll post one just for you. But it doesn't do it justice coming through an iPhone. Emerald Dragon 1333. Correct. 1967 Congress confirmed 14th, not legally ratified, and called a tool of usurpation. I'm assuming you meant 1867 Congress, but I know what you meant. Also, New York tried to back out of the ratification of the 13th and 14th, or was it the 14th and 15th? And they would not allow them to back out of the ratification. So, because ratification, it's not like they all get together and have one vote. Ratification takes course over many, many years, so it could go on. I do want to give a hat tip to Tone Ranger and Quilting Queen. Sent me this cute little card with the discombobulator gun on it. Little postcard there. Appreciate that, guys.
Haven't really got a lot of discombobulator from all this, though. Like, where is the discombobulator?
Right? Where is that thing?
I need to see some more discombobulated people. And I haven't seen. I mean, the only discombobulated people I'm seeing are the ones online talking about this stuff. But I don't see the discombobulated people on the ground.
Yeah.
in the operations of it all.
All right, guys, we got to get out of here. Ghost, you got geopolitics today?
Yes, 2:00. I will see y'all there.
All right, I'll be there. Well, actually, I have to do a pre-record, but I'll watch it afterwards. See you guys later.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.